Let's talk about Christmas for a moment. I published a piece over at wisdomschool.com, and I will probably, at the end of this week, probably on Friday, republish it at hartmannreport.com, but right now it's at wisdomschool.com, titled, Does Christmas Hold the Promise of Light After Dark? And, you know, it's essentially, the ultimate message of it is that, you know, hopefully light triumphs. That this, you know, the Christmas message, the Hanukkah message, the message of most ancient, what you might call pagan, rituals that have to do with the solstice, the winter solstice, which is, you know, this week, the 21st, the shortest day of the year, has been the focus of you know, winter celebrations and ceremonies forever. I mean, they just found, I did this as a Geeky Science last week, they just found a 9,000-year-old circle of calendar stones, 40 feet underwater in Traverse Bay, Grand Traverse Bay, off, you know, in Lake Michigan, just off the coast of Traverse City, where Louise and I went for our honeymoon. And it's 9,000 years old, and it's a calendar stone. They were using it to determine what is the day that is the winter solstice. They had to know what the shortest day of the year was for a whole bunch of reasons. Now we know how much longer it's going to be before the sun comes back, and how long will our food last? You know, how many days from now do we start preparing the soil safely without worrying about freeze? For people who were actually afraid that the sun was going to vanish, I mean, the Sami people of northern Finland and Sweden, they put fat. They would paint fat over the doors to their homes in the winter to feed the sun, because they felt that the sun was sick and she needed to be fed to come back to full light in the, you know, after December 21st. The Sami people also had this ceremony where they would take these red and white mushrooms, the Amanita mushrooms, and cultivate them and encourage reindeer, who they had kind of domesticated, encourage reindeer to eat these mushrooms. The mushrooms contain dimethyltryptamine, DMT, which is a powerful psychedelic drug, but they also contain a poison that will destroy your liver. Well, reindeer livers can detoxify this poison, and the DMT passes through reindeer's kidneys intact. So what they would do is they would go around and gather the yellow snow, the reindeer urine, and make it into kind of a witch's brew, into a psychedelic drink. And people would drink that, and they would, when I was a teenager, I smoked DMT once, and it's like, wham! It was like the world just tore in half. Suddenly, reality just tore right down the middle, and I was looking into another world that was filled with these little people who looked kind of like robots, but they were tiny people. This is a really common hallucination on DMT, which is the active ingredient in this mushroom, this red and white mushroom that kind of looks like Santa, that causes, you know, the people, when they take the reindeer drink, to imagine little tiny elves. And this is also the time of year that Schley, who was the name of the eight-legged reindeer that Odin rode, the top Norse god, would travel through the sky and bring things to people. And of course, you know, the 8 legs became 8 reindeer, and, you know, here we are. So there's all these traditions, but the bottom line of all these traditions is pushing back the darkness. The Yule log, you know, keeping the light lit. The Hanukkah tradition, you know, keeping the menorah lit. I don't think it necessarily came out of these northern European traditions, but maybe. I mean, who knows? I'm not an expert on this, but I remember, you know, when we lived in Germany back in 1986, the Christmas of 1986, Herr Mueller led us through the forest in Stadtsteinach. We lived in a little town that was right up against a huge forest, the Franconian forest, and to a tree that they had lit up with little candles. They probably put 100 candles in this giant pine tree, and we stood there with the animals from you know, we had a couple of horses and a goat and the dogs. And we stood there and sang Christmas carols. And he told me, he said, back, in the old days, the German shaman would find the tallest tree on top of the tallest peak that they could access. And on the shortest day of the year, on December 21st, they would light that tree on fire and command the sun to return. And the next day, the day would be a day long, a few minutes longer, and everybody would go, he did it again. It's just like, it's this cool thing. But the bottom line, these old pagan ceremonies, this is Christmas is basically a reinvented pagan holiday out of these short days. And during these short, dark days and long nights, let's remember this ancient knowledge, right? That illumination always follows darkness, that with love and compassion, we can relight our nations and our lives. And so, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, the very best of the season to you and yours. And where do you find light today? I find light in the actually really great work, by and large, that the Biden administration has done, keeping the economy together, keeping us together, speaking the truth. I find light in some Republicans who are actually speaking out against Trump. I find light in the compassion people show each other in so many ways. I certainly know where the darkness is, but I also see a lot of light. How about you?